Good afternoon and welcome to another Bernews News and Views. And we have perhaps the most famous doctor in Bermuda, Dr. Carika Weldon. Well, if you're not, you're definitely in the conversation. Welcome this afternoon.
Thank you, Don. Good to be here.
Okay. I have some questions prepared for Dr. Weldon, but I know some of you may have questions as well, and you can go ahead and post them in the comments and we'll try to get to them. We only have, she's given us 30 minutes of her precious time, and we want to make the most of them. First off, Dr. Weldon, how are you feeling after taking the vaccine on Monday?
So I have to be honest. So I did the press conference last night. I was fine. And then when I got home, I felt really drained. I felt a bit sluggish. I felt cold and I felt hot. And I was like, what is going on? So I had a sleep, I went to bed and woke up feeling better. But last night, I definitely felt a bit of flu-like symptoms. So I'm glad I got through that. But yeah, otherwise today I'm feeling good. Went to the gym, all better.
Okay, great. And as a joke, Michael Brangman posted, did you get any superpowers yet or turn into a zombie?
Not yet. No, I very much struggled at the gym today. So no, unfortunately not.
Yeah. For your perspective, what impact will people taking the vaccine have on your job? Will it mean less tests?
Actually, so we were in a meeting earlier today, the testing committee, and this was literally being discussed. Obviously, the more and more of us that are vaccinated and we start to reach that type of herd immunity, we're not going to need to be doing as much testing because now people should not be getting sick. They should not be able to hopefully pass it on. That obviously data will come soon, hopefully from Pfizer and Moderna. But even so, I mean, we know that we have vaccines for flu, right? Let's talk about that. If you get the flu shot and I have the flu shot, we both have the flu shot. Now, we could potentially give it to each other, but none of us are going to get sick. So we're not really worried about giving it to each other anymore, right? And that's the place we want to get to with COVID. Okay, maybe I could give it to you and you could give it to me, but we won't actually get sick. Okay. And if everyone else is vaccinated, then we could be giving it to each other potentially. Obviously, hopefully that will not be the case and that the vaccine can stop transmission. But let's just say it doesn't. If we're all protected and we can't get sick, then it doesn't become such a big deal anymore. And we don't have to be testing 1 billion people a day is what it feels like sometimes.
All right.
Yeah.
Michelle Doris has asked, will we be getting the Moderna vaccine here?
As far as I know, it is in the conversation. I know Moderna was only approved a few days ago, if memory serves me correctly, in the UK. So that's really where the delay has come from for us getting it, because obviously we are connected to the UK supply chain, essentially. So it may be that, future shipments of vaccines that we get from the UK government are Moderna, but at this point it's Pfizer.
Will it make any difference, Moderna, Pfizer, and how things go?
I mean, both of them are in a similar position where they have yet to show that they stop transmission. I think potentially when they both show that, then they're both going to be pretty equal. At the moment, none of them have shown that data. Only the Oxford vaccine has done that. And so in my mind, actually, the AstraZeneca Oxford one is kind of more favored by most, as far as I'm hearing.
Will we be getting that one?
That's a good question as well. Like I said, our supply, which is pretty interesting, I think, in my mind anyway, is really much linked to the UK supply. And now that one is obviously has been approved, I think it more so comes down to what the UK government has. I think they mostly ordered Pfizer first because that was the one that came out the gate first. But I wouldn't be surprised if going forward that we, started to see the other types of vaccines be given to us by the UK government, because really the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine is better in a way because you don't have to have a freezer, right? And so there are these logistical advantages that will start to play out, and the price is a lot cheaper as well. So but at this point, we have the Pfizer vaccine, and that's the one that we'll be using.
That's because it's not an mRNA vaccine; it's different.
The Pfizer one or the Oxford?
No, Oxford.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's not an mRNA vaccine. It's actually, and I'm glad I can clarify this. It is not human cells, please. It is also not a coronavirus. It is an adenovirus. That's another type of virus that normally you would find in chimpanzees. Interesting enough, I have a paper from the time I was at Oxford, and in that paper, I actually sequenced that same vector, which has the chimpanzee adenovirus sequence. And what they basically done is put in there part of the coronavirus to allow your body to obviously create it and then be able to have immunity. So it works kind of similar, but it's definitely not mRNA. So hence why it doesn't need the cold chain.
I can see online a lot of people thanking you.
Thank you.
And Maria Goder also has sent her appreciations as well. So
thank you, everyone. I appreciate that.
And I know, like, being a public figure, sometimes you have people say negative things, and it's not always positive and appreciated. So when people do say thank you,
it definitely means a lot. Yes.
Kim Mosley asked, does everyone have to register for the vaccine, or do you have to wait for your doctor to contact you when it's your turn for your age group?
Oh, that's a good question. So I know we have a strategy in terms of priority. And at the moment, if you fit into, I think it's 1A, then you should have already been contacted and should have been given the option already. When it comes to those who may not fit into category 1A or B, I think as far as I understand, you should be able to register, but then the vaccine program from the ministry will contact you when it is suitable for you to get it. So I don't think at the moment you have to go through your doctor. I think it's just like with COVID testing. You can register yourself, and then the government will let you know when it's your turn.
Now, we've mentioned like 3 of the types of vaccines that have been out, but I mean, other countries are working on their own vaccines and things. What do you imagine, like in a year and a half's time, will there become one vaccine that's proven to be the best and people will gravitate to it?
A year and a half from now, I think it's got me lost in what that could even look like. What year that would be. I think it may be that there may be one that kind of stands out from the rest, or it may be that they all kind of get the job done and it's just about whichever one is available. Obviously, we are a global world, right? So yes, Bermuda, we might sort ourselves out, but we are open to the world. And if they haven't got themselves sorted out, it kind of puts us in jeopardy. So I don't think there may be one company that would be like, vaccinating the whole world. That would be kind of unreasonable. But it may be that one does stand out. Who knows at this point? A year and a half ago, we didn't even have COVID. So who knows?
Yeah. And apologies in advance if I butcher your first name. Lilette Wares asked if, as a younger person seeing your experience last night, just wondering how a senior in their 80s and older who have underlying issues can shake it off with what you've experienced.
Well, that's a good question because it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks, to be honest. I didn't see it coming until I got home and I was like, oh my God. I mean, rest helped me, just going to sleep and obviously eating and getting my nutrients up. I would say, just make sure that they consult their doctor. I did actually consult one of my doctor friends, and he was like, you know what, just take a Tylenol and get some rest. And so that's kind of what I did. I didn't take Tylenol though. I just ate and went to sleep. These are not, novel symptoms. This happens with the flu shot as well. So I would just say if anyone is in their 80s or older and they're having these symptoms, to contact their doctor and obviously tell a loved one and make sure that they check on you, because I had that as well and someone was checking on me. So that also helped.
Gina Lord asked, what can you offer those of us who are highly allergic to PEG, an ingredient in the Pfizer vaccine? And for people like myself who don't know what PEG stands for,
polyethylene glycol. So that's PEG, or we call it PEG. I've used that quite a number of times in my research. So I would, and this is what kind of touches on the question you asked me earlier about, like, is there going to be like a super duper popular vaccine? I think it really comes down to what works for you. And it will be, you have an option, you have A, B, C, D, E, which one do you want type of situation. I think that where it may go. So, I mean, I don't know if the Oxford AstraZeneca one or Moderna has PEG in it. So that would be something that you, for example, Gina Lord would look into, and then you would decide which one you want. I don't think the Oxford AstraZeneca one would have that, but it might. But there are, as you know, in addition to the 3, there are about 6 or 7 more vaccines that are, coming through the pipeline. So there will be a lot that enter the market. But at this moment, I couldn't tell you specifically which one doesn't have PEG because I don't have the ingredients in front of me, unfortunately.
Okay. Kim Mosley asked, if we get the Oxford vaccine, is Bermuda planning on giving the second shot at 12 weeks instead of 3 to 4 weeks in order to vaccinate more people earlier? I think the Premier answered that, or the Health Minister said, I'm not sure if it was this week or the previous week, said that they were planning on just giving 2 doses.
Yeah, I mean, I understand the logic behind the UK change in the dosage interval, but from a scientific standpoint, it kind of makes me a bit uncomfortable because that hasn't been what's been studied in the trials. And so we're just going to stick to what the trials, showed. I think as well, we are at a bit of an advantage to the UK where we have a smaller population and pretty much everyone is able to access booking the vaccine, whereas in the UK, they aren't. And so, and obviously the UK is going through a much worse outbreak / second wave / third wave, whatever they're on, than us. So it's slightly different. But I know for a fact that we have no plans in Bermuda to change the intervals from what is recommended.
Yeah, I think I saw what the WHO had posted and a lot of leading scientists, and they said, well, if the trials have been done this way, why are you going to change?
Right. And I get it to a certain extent that, okay, if you have, I think we got 9,800 or something doses. If you do 1 dose for each person, then, you get more people, but it's less protection. It's only 50 something percent. And if people have 2 doses, then they have, up to 95. What we want to have double the amount of people that are kind of halfway protected or half of the amount of people that are more like mostly fully protected. That's kind of the question. And I think for us, we want to follow the guidelines and we'll give the second dose. So I'll be going back for my shot on the 1st of February.
Shelley Eve asked about if there's paperwork handed to you confirming if you have had the vaccine. I know you got like a little card for your next.
Yes, is a paper. Yeah, so you have a little card. Do I have it? It's in my wallet. Oh, I can get it. Oh, I'll try to get it for you. But yeah, they gave a little card that has your name on it. Okay, this is like more of a test of what's in my wallet more than anything. If I can find it. Oh, actually, it might be in my bag. Sorry, I like to show people things as opposed to just talking about. Oh, I found it. Yay. Okay, so it looks like this. All right, and then it actually on the back has that had dose number 1, what day, and then the initials of the nurse. So that's what it is. And obviously, there's a system, an online system that has a database of everyone that was vaccinated and what day and what time. So there's like an online database as well.
Right. Michael Brankman's also posted the link if you want to sign up to take the vaccine right there. And again, as they said last night, just because you register doesn't mean that you're going to get it right away because it depends on what group you're in. Exactly.
So I think register, because I think one of the things that I didn't realize until last night is that our ability and the time that we get the second dose from the UK government and from COVAX as well is based on uptake and how much people in Bermuda actually want the vaccine. So if we, get through what we have, relatively quickly, then we will be able to get more. And so if you are interested in getting vaccinated, then do register, because that at least helps the government to make a good case that, look, we have this much people that want to be vaccinated. Please give us more doses.
Rose Sanders has a question with regard, if you're already taking blood thinner medication, is it safe to take the vaccine?
So I believe the senior medical officer last night, Dr. Armstrong, touched on that. There are certain conditions or medications that you're on that you potentially shouldn't be getting the vaccine. As far as I understand, blood thinners is in that category, and it's not necessarily about the COVID-19 vaccine. It's more so about the fact that you are getting injected and potentially could bleed. Obviously, we have clotting factors that will stop us from bleeding out. And if you're on blood thinners, you don't necessarily have that. So it's more about getting an injection as per the vaccine. But that would be something that you would definitely need to consult your doctor on.
Right. Skipping down to Carrie Walker here, and this applies to my wife as well. Should people with autoimmune disorders take the vaccine? Will it depend on the autoimmune disease in itself?
That's a very good question. Again, consult your doctor. That would be the best thing, because as you're saying, it's not a one size fits all type of question or answer. It depends on what type of autoimmune disease. It depends on the progression of the autoimmune disease. So all of that, and what medication you might be on because of the autoimmune disease. So definitely consult your doctor. But just for those who may not be aware, an autoimmune disease is one that your body is actually signaling to itself to destroy itself. And so that becomes a bit of a challenge when it comes to vaccinations, because you're triggering your immune system and you don't want it to destroy the wrong parts of your body. So yeah, consult your doctor on that one, because it will definitely have some type of impact.
One of the news that came out yesterday was the United States was going to start requiring people to have a pretest, following Bermuda's lead.
Of course.
Before they get 3 to 5 days. How much of an impact do you think that's going to have on your labs?
Again, something that's been in the discussions this week. In a way, I don't feel like it's going to have that much of an impact, because at the moment we already have, obviously, people that travel here, visitors that travel here already go through the traveler testing, program. So they already are being tested before they leave. The only difference would be, say, if they are here for 14 days and they had gotten tested on day 8. So that wouldn't necessarily be valid for travel. So that might be an additional test, but we already kind of have that locked in. And I think it's a good percentage of our travelers outbound that are in that category of those people that, already fly in and are being tested. It's more so our residents that are willing to fly away. And we already have a number of them that book themselves into the community testing sites, get tested, ask for the travel certificate. That's a daily thing. So I'm actually optimistic that I don't think it's going to affect us by much anyway. I think most people already were getting that done.
Yeah. And the fact that they're supposed to be getting a test 3 to 4 days after they're in the U.S., do you feel like that might have any impact on us when they come back, less likelihood of them being infected?
I hope so. I sure hope so. I know that at the moment, most of our new cases are actually travelers, and we're catching them on arrival, and, they tend to be more so residents. So yeah, I think that would definitely help. With our travel regime, it makes travelers, residents and visitors alike feel safer. And so when they do go back home, they don't have that anxiety that, oh, maybe I've caught COVID in Bermuda. So I think in a likewise manner, that should definitely help us in the long run.
Yeah, I noticed it was a little bit different. Yesterday's results, I think the numbers was 3 out of 5 were tested on their arrival test, which was kind of unusual.
It was a lot more actually. And I think all of them were travelers, if I remember correctly. So yeah, we're catching them. And what's interesting though is throughout the outbreaks that we had in November, December, we still had like the same kind of rate of travelers and arrival positives, but it was masked completely by all of the local transmission, so it wasn't as apparent. But yeah, we're still catching them, and gladly so. I don't think we will ever change from testing everyone when they arrive.
Now, yesterday, and this is a little bit more sciencey. Okay. I find it interesting. You announced you would soon be able to do the genome sequencing in Bermuda. How will that help the island knowing what the strains are?
I think it will help a lot, because initially when the new, and I just want to say this, there are hundreds of strains, okay? There's not like one or two, that there's hundreds ones that are specific to different countries, to different outbreaks in countries. There's loads. There's a website that has all of them. Actually, I will share the website with you, and maybe you can post it on your website. Would that work? So I think the more people know, the better. So I will share this. Wait a minute. Okay. I just shared it with you guys so you can share it with everyone. So that's just one particular lineage or strain, one of the ones that we have at the moment. But you can look at all the other ones on that website. But yeah, I think it is going to help us not only to know that we don't have these wild mutant strains. So we know at the moment in the samples that we sent in that time period, we don't have that UK strain. Not to say that it didn't come afterwards, but at least knowing that that wasn't what caused that, infamous BA flight to have all those people, I think settles our minds a little bit. Obviously, once we get through all the recent outbreaks, then that would help to know. If we don't have it there, that would also kind of ease our minds and let us know that it was more of a breach of guidelines and public health actions, which is easier to fix than to know that we have this mutant strain all over the place that is, unmanageable. I think in my opinion, one of the side effects of having so many sci-fi movies is that we just think the worst can happen. And so, things like I Am Legend, that's definitely 100% on people's mind when it comes to this vaccine. But I think just having that information will be useful to the country. So I know there's like a Brazil strain now, there's the South African strain. We need to know if we have that here, because if we do, we need to then potentially shift our actions. I'm excited about it. I think you probably saw my face light when I started talking about it last week.
Yeah. Well, I know I was sort of fascinated. I think it was at the end of the summer, first part of September, when that mink strain from Denmark started going around, and they had to call all the minks just to keep it from spreading.
Exactly. So we have been watching from afar, but we haven't actually had our hands dirty in that. And so I'm excited that now we can finally get involved. And one of the cool things as well is there is a global, repository where all of the COVID-19 viral genome data goes. And so now officially Bermuda is in there. We have our first set of data that's in that global database.
Okay. The other thing is, you again last night, when your face lit up, you announced the 8 strains that we had identified before. What does that tell us? Because I believe, if I'm correct, you said there were 5 from the U.S., 2 from the UK, and 1 from Asia. What were you able to glean information?
So a few things, and a lot of this is still kind of under investigation. Really, the main point of sending the samples was to understand what happened on that BA flight, because we had a few kind of hypotheses that maybe it was one positive that maybe, spread throughout and had an outbreak, or potentially it could have been that everyone had it, but it just took different days for them to manifest it. So we wasn't sure what was going on. And so we're still investigating that, but we've got some very interesting conclusions that we've been able to draw. I can't share what they are, sorry, just yet. We still need to, get the final say on that, but it's been interesting. And so we know that we have 2 strains from the UK. They're both very common strains that have been around since last March. From the US, we have 5 strains, and what's interesting is that one location, and if I remember correctly, I have my little notebook. I don't want to misquote this. So Miami seems to be very common for bringing in positives. We had like 4 of the 5 strains that came in through Miami. Okay. So, it then lets us know, okay, that's a hotspot. Maybe we should potentially be monitoring that more. Obviously, this was back in that time period. ATL, so Atlanta, had 2 of the strains. Boston had 1. And some of the strains came from multiple locations in the US. So you can see it's kind of spread throughout the East Coast. And then we had the one from Asia, which had come via a private jet, I believe. And so it just, for me, it's just satisfying to know, like, it made sense that like the US strains actually are from the US, like the ones that came by the US are known US strains that are commonly circulated. It's just very satisfying, just for me as a scientist, to see that it all matched up. So that was the most exciting thing I probably saw in the last week.
part of the thing is like I was teaching science today for a school and subbing in, but I was telling the kids it was like, science is one of those great fields where as you do more research and study, things change, like with
Yes.
COVID, because we were talking about COVID as part of the lesson, and what was true, maybe true back in February, because things changed, and we've learned more because of investigations and the type of work that you're doing.
Exactly. And so I think that's what I like about it. Like you just can't ever in this field be fixed in a position and think that's it. There's always more information. I mean, one of the things that I learned very early on in my career is by doing an experiment, you could do one experiment. The results from that experiment would then give you 10 more experiments to do, just because there's so much other things now that you understand and need to look into more. And so I think for me, that's how I feel about the viral sequencing. Now I'm like, well, what other strains do we have? Which ones were the ones that were potentially on local transmission? Because the other interesting thing is that we do have a link from the first unlinked case that was around mid-November to one of the flights. So now we can potentially see how that kind of happened. And so it's definitely going to be interesting next couple months.
Yeah. We're going to take two more questions, and that'll be it. So Rose Talbot and Kim Mosley, and then Dr. Weldon's busy, so we appreciate the time that you've given us. Rose Talbot asks, should a person who with many health conditions and on many different kinds of meds take the vaccination?
So again, it has to be taken on a case-by-case basis. It could be that the health conditions that you have may not necessarily be negatively impacted by the vaccine, or it may. So it really has to talk to your GP and understand what potentially are the considerations when it comes to the vaccine. So I can't necessarily answer that. The best I can say is to speak with that person's GP and let them understand and help them to understand what potentially they should do.
Okay, and then Kim Mosley, can 16-year-olds be vaccinated? I know children cannot yet. What is the age cutoff?
So as far as I am aware, in the last stage, so we're in like phase 1 at the minute. You have phase 2, and then there's phase 3, which I think is like anyone can get vaccinated. You can be 18 or older, or 16 and older with consent. So I think the youngest we're going in phase 3 is 16, but you have to have some parental consent for that.
Right. And Dr. Weldon, it's a half hour has flown by. We appreciate you and love you. I want a round of applause.
Thank you.
Is there anything else that you'd like to say as we get ready to end here?
I would just say, when it comes to anything, especially with the vaccine, I don't want anyone to feel like they have to take it. And I think for me, that's really important. We all have our concerns. I mean, I had my concerns for a very long time. And when I first heard that, we were getting some in Bermuda, I was like, I'll wait a few months to see what happens, just like what most people are saying. But then I, actually looked into it and researched into it, looked at the data that became publicly available, and felt, what, this is the best thing that I could possibly do. Is I work, with positive samples. It was actually really scary in December because I had a few casual contacts with close contacts, or, knew someone who was a close contact. And it became like very real that, look, I could actually get this thing. And I had, some people I knew that had gotten it, and they was telling me how they were, in so much pain, and they lost the taste of smell, like just to hear what they were going through. And it kind of hit me that, hey, I actually don't want to get this disease, right? Yeah, I'm young, but I think I just want to avoid that. And so I then made my own personal decision to get vaccinated. I don't want anyone to feel like they have to do it without their own will, but get the good information, get the right information, and then make a decision, and then do what you think is best.
Right. Great, appreciate it. You talk about not wanting to lose your sense of taste and things. I had one of my friends who's in the States who was in the hospital and had coronavirus, and he was complaining at the tail end of it how the hospital food sucked because he couldn't taste anything. And I was just like, You do know that's one of the symptoms.
Right, right. Yeah, and I like food too much. I don't know if I can afford to lose my taste or smell.
Right. So, Dr. Welcome, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay. And for my lovely M1 and M2 students at Clearwater Middle School, I hope this helps motivate you a little bit to study your science, especially when your regular teacher's back as well. You can grow up and be a great doctor like Dr. Weldon.
And ask questions. Ask all the questions.
Asking questions is good. Asking questions is not bad at all. Be inquisitive. On behalf of Bernews, I've been your host this afternoon with Dr. Carika Weldon. I'm Don Burgess, and have a beautiful evening.